What's up, chess player? Today I want to share with you what you need to do if the whole tournament situation feels like a disaster, like how to recover if it's like a local end of the world for you, like it was for me at this point. I was having like 2 out of 5 points, like playing on board number 90 or something like that, having minus 30 in terms of my rating, like it just could not get worse. And so I played as black. I needed to absolutely win this game against, well, once again, a pretty strong opponent. If you are playing a strong tournament, pretty much never you get a weak opponent. So my opponent had around 2200 once again, and I played the Philidor defense. So the recipe how to get away from out of this disaster is to play something you are most familiar with. And in my case, of course, that's the Philidor defense. If you're watching my videos for quite some time, you know that for sure. That is an opponent I know so much about. I can give a lot of lectures about it, but this time I just want to share with you this game. My opponent immediately went to the endgame, and I don't care about that. You might say, well, if you want to win, especially as black, never go into the endgame because it's so difficult to outplay your opponent. And I just don't agree with that. I really like to get into the endgame because it's so difficult for especially low-rated players psychologically to play this endgame, because the position is a little bit better for white, and especially you have this initiative. But if you want to make a draw, you always have this question like whether you should attack, you should go forward, or you should be very, very solid and try to secure a draw. And so from a psychological point, it's very difficult to deal with the situation, and so many players just can't do that. And for me, I just know my stuff here. I'm making the moves fast, which is very important because so often I get into time trouble. So bishop g5, c6 is so important here to stop, to secure the d5, the b5 square, so that the knight can never go there, and then basically you're not scared at all. Knight to d7, that is a pretty normal move. Knight f3, once again attacking here on e5, and so you have to decide what to do with the king, and the best move here is king to c7, even though it's leaving the pawn on f7 unprotected. But there are some ways to deal with it after bishop c4, even though my opponent played here bishop h4, which is very tricky. I didn't expect this move at all, because the bishop might go to e5, attacking this e5 square, and bishop c4 is still on the agenda. So I played bishop to b4 immediately, trying to be active. I mean, I'm kind of threatening bishop takes and knight takes e4 here. So knight to d2 has been played, and here already I felt that my position should be completely fine. I just need to finish my development. I played the move b5. I want to be active on the queen side, and I want this bishop not to get to the c4 square. That's very important, not to get activated. f3, well, of course, my opponent's position is incredibly solid, no question about that. But, well, if I manage to activate all of my pieces, then I thought I'm completely fine. Bishop c5, I wanted to control this diagonal because I felt this bishop might come to f2 one day, and then it's gonna be more difficult for me. But now the bishop is basically stuck there. You can see all of the pieces here, and the bishop is stuck on the other side. So king to b1 has been played, knight f8. I'm starting to remaneuver my pieces. Maybe it's not the most objectively the best way to do that, but it felt very logical. The knight might come here or here, opening up the bishop. So what can be better than that? Knight b3, bishop b6. I feel that my bishop is great here, controlling this entire diagonal. And g4. Well, my opponent wants to create some counterplay, and that is what happens. I mean, don't think that that's going to be too simple for your opponent to play the position like that, because still it's a very rich, even though it's an endgame, no queens on the board, it's a very rich position. You have so many pieces and so many different plans you can do. And g4 is a very interesting move. It's creating some attacking chances, but also it's creating some weakness in your camp. It's a very double-edged decision. I decided to attack it immediately. Now bishop g3, very good move attacking the e5 pawn, and I went knight 6 to d7 back. Yeah, maybe not the best move, but I really wanted to still attack this g4 pawn. And so g takes h, that is a move I completely underestimated, because I thought, well, now my rook is active, what can be wrong with that? But now f4, and suddenly I have some pressure on myself. I need to deal with it somehow. Knight g6, another mistake, and bishop e2, I mean, takes, that is all very, very annoying. There are some open files for my opponent to attack, there are some targets to attack, and yeah, I still haven't finished my development. That is the biggest problem. You remember that the development is the most important thing in chess. If, for example, my bishop would be on e6, my rook would be on e8, that would be already a much better situation, but it's not. So I took it on e5. Now my knight is constantly feeling some pressure. There is a pin here. h4, like h5 is an immediate threat, so I played f6 to protect the knight. h5, knight went back to f8, but now rook to f1, and bishop takes, and rook f7 is a huge threat. I mean, I feel like my opponent is just keep putting pressure on me, keep creating those threats, and it's a very, very annoying feeling. So once again, back to the best strategy you can have in chess: create as many threats for your opponent as you possibly can while improving your position. Don't just go away with your queen there and here just to, I don't know, attack your opponent's move, your opponent's piece in one move. That just doesn't work like that. But if the move, like rook f1, is improving your position, I mean, your rook was good on d1, but maybe even better along the f-file, and it's also creating a threat for your opponent, then that would be a cool move to make. Even though chess.com says it's an inaccuracy, but, well, you can never get everything right. Bishop e6, I just wanted to finally develop my pieces, activate the rook, and of course control this f7 square. That is why it's a very good move. But now h6, and once again I have another problem to deal with. I played knight d7, I wanted to defend it, and I saw this very powerful resource of exchanging the rooks and then play rook to g8, and in the long run it's not possible for white to save the g7 pawn. And it's very important here to exchange one pair of rooks, because remember, if you stay passive, if you're more passive than your opponent, exchanging the pieces is the best thing you can do, because if you play a rook to g8 immediately, then you still have this very passive rook, which you basically don't know what to do with, and your opponent has two active rooks. That is what I want to achieve here, to exchange, and then bishop f7, following up by bishop g6, and I just take the pawn back. But it's just an equality. It doesn't mean I can win the game. I just survived all of the threats, and that is already good. And then I started to think, okay, how can I create those threats for my opponent? And I need to be very tricky, because a few exchanges here, for example, knight f3, a few exchanges happens, and then, well, there is just no way to win the game. Bishop went back to f7, attacking the bishop here. And then I played king to b7, just escaping the pin. I'm trying to improve my position with every single move. And there is potentially a target here on e4 to attack for me. And, well, of course, my opponent always has to keep an eye on it. Of course, I also have an f6 pawn, which might be a weakness as well, but yeah, it's probably more difficult to get to it. So rook to h1 back, bishop to g8. I just wanted to step back a little bit, controlling all of those squares, of course, is diagonal, and potentially I'm preparing the move rook to g2, and that is exactly what happened here. And here is the last moment when it was still completely equal. You need to play knight h4, and my opponent told me that she saw this move after the game, but during the game she was already in time trouble. That is a very good thing, of course, to put your opponent, to put some pressure on your opponent in time trouble. And so she played bishop to d1, so everything is secure, but not everything is secure, because I'm taking the knight here on f3 and then play rook f2, and both of those bishops are suddenly hanging, and you need to deal with that. And there is no easy way to do that. The last moment probably not to lose the game was here by playing bishop to g4, but I would argue that not such a simple move to make. Instead, my opponent played rook to h3, and that is already losing here. Rook to f1 check. I don't know why chess.com says it's a miss. Actually, that's a completely fine move. It's -3 here. Knight to d1. I just wanted to put even more pieces away from my opponent so that he is as passive as possible. Now bishop to e6, attacking the rook here. You can go anywhere except for g3 because you have to defend. But then I have bishop to f2, once again creating a threat. And here is, after rook to g2, is a moment when I was calculating so deep, so much because I have two moves, bishop h4 and bishop e1, and as the tournament is just so horrible as it might get for me, I didn't want to spoil yet another completely winning position. So I was trying to calculate it till the end, but I believed that both of the moves are winning, and I was right about that this time. So I played bishop to e1, the start of this combination. The point is, bishop to g3, I just take it, then I go back to f1, and after rook e2, I have bishop to g4, and there is no way to save all of your pieces. If you go rook e3, you lose a knight. If you go rook d2, you lose a bishop. So my opponent resigned here, and finally I have got one victory. I was a little bit relieved. I mean, that was such a painful situation for me to find myself, but even if that happens, you still need to stay professional. You still need to try to play your best chess, because someday you lose, someday you win. So please let me know in the comments what you think about this game. And in this video, I share with you this very, very painful loss that I have got in the previous round. And I share with you the biggest problem I currently have in chess and how I try to deal with it.